Yes, thank you very much, John, and thanks very much to the Chongyang Institute, to No Cold War, and to the Tricontinental for organizing this, and to all the organizers who put in a lot of work. It's a great privilege to speak in this company of such important critical thinkers, and also, of course, to speak to the Chinese and the international audience. Um, the US elections, the protracted agony that they have set the United States on is, I feel, merely another milestone in the decades long unraveling of the United States neoliberal and financialized capitalism and its consequent decline in world influence. As the US passes this milestone, it sees China with its contrasting economic model, complete with contrasting economic performance and pandemic performance, headed in the other direction, rising as the US is declining. This is the essential background against which to appreciate the US elections and their aftermath. Domestically, China's contrasting success against the pandemic, its economic dynamism, its political stability are the mirrors in which the US's pandemic failures, economic debility, and political unraveling, as well as decline in international influence, are reflected most plainly. The elections 2020 are only further deepening the crisis of ungovernability that led to Trump's election 4 years ago in the first place. Over the past 40 years, US governments of both parties have promoted neoliberalism and financialization, which have worsened inequality, insecurity, productive weakness, and social polarization among the US electorate on the one hand, and on the other, sought to win votes for them at the same time. The political contradictions of this configuration generated were maturing over the neoliberal decades when they began sharpening even more rapidly after the 2008 North Atlantic financial crisis. The present pandemic and the crisis only gives them a even more razor-sharp edge. It's clear that Biden will be proclaimed the winner and Trump will have a barrage of court cases, which will, however, probably unlikely to overturn the verdict. If it does so, the US's problems that I'm about to describe will be even worse. The dominant interpretation of Biden's victory has been that it will save democracy. All the media is proclaiming this. However, the details reveal a different picture. As many people have pointed out, Biden's victory has been exceedingly narrow. And in fact, if he has won the most votes in US election history, Trump has won the second most votes, and the margin between them on last Friday was about 2%, not huge. It gets worse for Biden. Most Trump voters were devoted to him and his policies, despite his repulsive personality, grotesque underperformance on the pandemic, and unenviable economic record. By contrast, Biden voters, as Claudia pointed out, did not vote for him. They voted to get Trump out. Despite overwhelming support for Biden in the media, despite him bending over backwards to appeal to the Trump voter, and despite out fundraising Trump by a factor of 2 to 1 and making the Democratic Party more plutocratic than ever. All these exertions have left US 2020 elections more dominated by Trump than ever, and the US polity more divided than ever. Worse, Trump will preside over a polity divided between devoted Trump supporters and those who desperately wanted and needed an alternative, but only got the restoration of the very conditions that led to the election of Trump. Never was a victory more Pyrrhic. What can winning the right to govern the ungovernable possibly be? The US crisis of governability has also shaken its institutional foundations. Biden claimed that the US military would usher Trump out of office if he refused to leave, only to be contradicted by the Chief of Defense Staff refusing to accept the commission. The rushed appointment of Coney Barrett has raised doubts about the impartiality of the US judiciary that will remain whether Biden packs the court or not. The media has violated its own vocation to merely report the news and has taken instead to making the news instead. The Electoral College is now thoroughly discredited, but it is also clear that replacing it is harder than ever. While American citizens are very proud of the antiquity of their of their constitution, they now realize that you cannot run a 21st century society with an 18th century constitution. And they have also therefore realized one of the reasons they love the Constitution is that it has been changed so little. But the fact is, it's been changed so little because it's very hard to change, and it's very hard to change because the framers never trusted the people. The Republican Party is already in a situation of tearing itself apart. Basically, the Republican Party had to take Trump because it couldn't find anything better, and now people are already beginning to break ranks. At the same time, the Democratic Party is also deeply divided between Biden's neoliberal current and a small left that is acutely aware of the need to break with the neoliberalism of the past, even though it's not quite sure exactly how to do so. Civil war remains a lurid fear rather than a realistic possibility. Instead, with the Senate remaining in Republican hands, the US faces a prolonged and paralyzing gridlock between a decaying capitalism and a restive citizenry that it can neither satisfy nor pacify, and which is likely to take a long time before it can organize to refashion this unsatisfactory state of affairs. This sort of United States will alternate between being preoccupied with its internal problems and being internationally provocative in order to distract attention from them. Biden may bring some superficial changes, such as rejoining the WHO or the Paris Accord, or even reviving the Iran nuclear deal. However, like Democrats before him, he will remain a creature of the State and Defense Department establishments, which originated the hostility towards China, and of course, which have historically been very aggressive towards any attempt by any society to organize its affairs on a basis that is different and incompatible with what United States and its capitalist classes need. So essentially, they are all committed to the present pattern of a neoliberal financialized capitalist economy. While major elements of the US ruling classes recognize that it must come to terms with China's rising power, their political representatives cannot win elections without making China the scapegoat for the ills that their system generates, that their structure of power and privilege generates. This is what the new Cold War has always been about. Like the old Cold War, it is already generating pressures on other countries to line up on one side or the other. As it happens, it is clear that only the most roguish regimes, India and Brazil, the governments of India and Brazil today come to mind most readily, will line up alongside the United States. The only thing China must do is remain open, as it already does, is remain open to reasonable dialogue, befriend the wiser elements of these societies that are ranged against it, and focus its attention on the countries and forces with which it can cooperate in a mutually beneficial development. Given the glaring contrasts between a chaotic US and a stably rising and prospering China, there will be many of the latter type of forces. Thank you very much.